We're 30 seconds from the event. Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Station is ready for the event.
KOMO-4, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Holly Menino with KOMO in Seattle. How do you hear me?
Good morning. I hear you loud and clear.
Expedition 73 flight engineer Anne McClain from the International Space Station joining me now. And thank you so much for joining me. Thrilled to talk with you. Tell me, what are you experiencing on this trip to space right now?
Well, it is such an honor to get to talk to you. You know, the further you travel from home, the different ways that you define home. And, you know, I spent so much time in the Seattle area and the Northwest growing up that getting to talk to you today is really a treat. I'm currently aboard the International Space Station conducting about a 6-month mission. This is a national orbiting laboratory, so on any one day, we're doing a variety of different science and maintenance tasks to keep this amazing national lab running.
When the space station passes by your home state, what crosses your mind when you see Washington?
You know what's really cool about coming up on Washington State is that you can really spot it. You can see Puget Sound and, you know, Whidbey Island. I spent a lot of time there as a kid, too. Now, I grew up in Spokane, Washington, and I got to tell you the story of the first time that I flew over Washington State looking for both Seattle area and Spokane. I flew over, I saw Puget Sound, I thought, okay, great. In just in another minute, we'll be over Spokane. And I kept trying to take pictures, and one of my crewmates floated in who had a little more experience than me. And he said, what are you trying to take pictures of? And I said, Spokane, Washington. And he said, we're already over Minnesota. And I suddenly realized how quickly we were moving.
That's funny. How is your current time in space preparing you for for any future trips, such as the moon or Mars?
Yeah, the International Space Station is absolutely a proving ground to deep space exploration. Now, a lot of people have heard that, but like, what does that really mean? You know, the science that we conduct here, it's really organized curiosity and organized ways to get answers that we know we need the answers if we're going to go back to deep space exploration. And you can kind of think of Space Station as a really unique platform, not only for exploration, which is kind of as I picture everything beyond here in our solar system, but also we are discovering a lot about technologies on Earth and disease on Earth. And so right now our mission, it enables deep space exploration because we can ask and answer certain questions like, how is the human body going to behave in space? What kind of systems are going to be the most robust? One of the key differences between the International Space Station and, say, a trip to Mars is how dependent we can be on Earth. So right now, behind the camera, I can see a whole bunch of stowage that just came up on a resupply vehicle this past week. And that was great. So if something broke a month ago, we could tell ground and they could send us a replacement. Now, when we go to deep space exploration back to Mars, we're not going to have resupply vehicles showing up. And so if you think about the level of complication of having to plan every single thing that may go wrong on that vehicle or every piece of equipment that you may need, and we either have to take it with us or manufacture it when, like on a 3D printer type of thing on that spacecraft.
Yeah, this is all preparing you for that. And can you detail to me what a day in space is like for you? I'm sure every day is different, but is there a standard day at all?
Yeah, we can kind of, the standard day is basically a Monday through Friday. We work about 12-hour days. So we have a morning meeting, like sync point with our ground control centers at about 7:30 in the morning, and we have the same thing at about 7:30 at night. And in between those 12 hours, Monday through Friday, we are kept very busy. Utilization is the name that we call it when we are conducting science experiments. So for instance, today I'll be pulling out some of the equipment and installing it right here to my right that's going to look at how plants propagate in space. Earlier today, we set up the glove box to do a science experiment tomorrow where we're looking at nanotherapeutics. We also have an exercise period during that time, so countermeasures are actually what we call it. We have to work against bone and muscle loss in our bodies. Our bodies were designed on Earth, and they're used to living on Earth, and so in order to keep our bones strong and our muscles from atrophying, we do about 2 to 2.5 hours of exercise every day, because if I could say anything, your bones only are going to be are only as strong as they need to be. So it's important that we load our muscles and bones. We also do a lot of prep work. We have a spacewalk later this week, so one of the big things that's consuming our crew time right now is preparing for that spacewalk. There's a lot that goes into that. All 4 of our crew members are actively preparing for that as well. So Monday through Friday is kind of an array of work-type tasks, and on the weekend it does ease up a little bit. We do some cleaning and maintenance around the space station, and then we get a little bit of time to relax.
Tell me about your upcoming spacewalk. I know that's just in a couple of days.
That's right. On Thursday, May 1st, my crewmate Nicole Ayers and myself will be going out to conduct some upgrades on the outside of Space Station. Our first major task is going to take about 5 hours, and that's installing some truss pieces next to one of our solar arrays that in the future what we call a rollout solar array can be installed on. And what that's doing is, if you've seen pictures of the space station, you see the giant solar arrays. Now, if you look up a picture recently in the last few years of Space Station, you're going to see a second solar array next to those solar arrays that kind of it's a little bit smaller and it's a little bit angled out. And these are actually to supplement our space station power so that we can have more capabilities. So we'll be installing some truss segments in order for that to install on. And then we're going to be moving an antenna that it's for docking vehicles, and it has a little bit of blockage right now. So we're actually just simply moving that antenna from one location to another. And that spacewalk will last about 6 hours.
How does your time in space right now compare to your previous trips?
You know what's really neat about coming back kind of 6 years later is getting to see how much the technologies have advanced. Things that we were trying out, like protein crystal growth, I remember in 2019, that was a really big question of, can we grow protein crystals in space more rapidly and more uniformly than we can on Earth, which really helps scientists in doing disease and pathology research, particularly into Parkinson's disease at the time. And now 6 years later, we have these fabrication facilities that we know we can grow crystals in space. And so now, hey, let's kind of scale that up. So to me, it's been really neat to see the advancement of technology. This is very much of a learning platform. And so we do an experiment, we get the answers, we make them better next time. It's also really fun being back with a new crew. So we have a really diverse crew, both by nationality and by experience. And so it's really fun to kind of experience a different time with a different crew.
Yeah, for those young girls watching this and watching your journey, what's a message that you have for them?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that I think it's so satisfying being up here on Space Station is because ever since I was a little kid in Washington State growing up, this is what I wanted to do. So if I could send a message to people that have a dream, and it doesn't matter what that dream is, and it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, 50 years old, or 95 years old. If you have a dream, you have to take the first step and get out of your comfort zone to do it. I grew up in Spokane, Washington. I went to college across the country at West Point in New York. And I remember sitting on the airplane flying across the country and thinking to myself, man, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I'm good enough to do it. I don't know if I'm going to make it through West Point. It's a really challenging school. And I was kind of nervous about it. And probably if you told me I could get off that airplane, I would have. But that was kind of the first time I distinctly remember what it feels like to get out of your comfort zone. Because our dreams don't come to us in our comfort zone. So I had to get up and I had to leave and I had to do something a little bit scary in order to do this. And it's absolutely worth it. And I'm so proud of my former self for taking those steps. So to any of you out there that are thinking, I want to do this when I grow up, I want to try this, but what if I fail? You know what? Like, that's how you know that you're getting out of your comfort zone. If you're a little bit nervous about failing, then you're going in the right direction.
Got to push yourself. Okay, and will you please show us your favorite microgravity trick?
I'm not known for being super coordinated, but I
Okay.
do like jumping on walls and continuing conversations. One of the cool things about being in microgravity after a while is you can kind of see these handrails, and your feet just kind of chase the handrails. If you use your hand to translate everywhere, then you don't have your hands to be able to do work. And so what you learn over time is kind of how to monkey your feet around. So I think it's really fun being able to work in 3D. Rooms that are small feel like a lot bigger. So this room I'm in right now, I can touch the ceiling, but there's also 4 sides to it, where all of which can contain science and maintenance and hardware. And so we really get to maximize the space. So I kind of love working on the ceiling.
I love that you just answered a question upside down. Anything else you want to show us?
What's really cool is how many different things go on Space Station. Just as I was waiting for this event to start, I was looking around and thinking about how much I've done just in this module just today and what I can see. So right now I'm floating in the Columbus module, which is a module that belongs to the European Space Agency. And right next to me, this is one of our big human research modules. So right next to me is an ultrasound machine. Just this morning, I was taking imagery of my own jugular and my heart as part of an experiment to see how blood flow and pressures change over time with spaceflight. Right back here, I took some eye pressure measurements. I already mentioned that just to my right, we'll be installing plant research, figure out how we can better grow plants in space. I can see a glove box. I can see an EMU, which is a spacesuit, where we have one of our extra spacesuits right in front of us because we had to clear out the airlock, getting ready for our spacewalk. So this is very much a working laboratory. And I know sometimes if you haven't seen it, you can look at this and go, man, there's wires and cables everywhere. Why don't they clean it up? But the key is that all these wires and cables being on the front of racks allows everything to be accessible and modular. So when a visiting vehicle comes up, we can literally pull out a box, a science experiment, undo all the cables, put a different one in, put the cables all back, and a lot of times they can run these experiments from the ground. So I think it's really cool just being on this laboratory. Every single little piece here was well thought out and has a purpose.
That's amazing. What do you think is the biggest thing that you'll take from space and take back home once you come back to Earth?
What I really hope, and I think spaceflight has made me very reflective on kind of the big picture life, like where did we come from, where are we going, what does it all mean? The thing with the space station is that it's the International Space Station. It's called that for a reason. Ever since the first concept of the space station, multiple countries around the world took part in this partnership, right? So I said I'm floating in a module that was put up here by the European Space Agency. I can see the Japanese pressurized module right across from me. We have the U.S. segment. We have a Russian segment. We have Canadian robotics on the outside of space station. We have so many different countries that have flown astronauts for long-duration missions. And so to me, this is an example of what we can accomplish when we truly see the best in one another, and we are inspired and driven by our commonalities, not by a common enemy, not by a dispute, not by anger, but when we are actually unified by inspiration, by human spirit, by the best in what humans can do when they work together. I wish everybody could visit here for a week on Earth. I think we would go back with a different perspective. And that perspective is that no matter who you meet in your life, you have more in common with them than you do different. People are trying to be happy. They're trying to build a life for their family. They're trying to go after their dreams. And this really is a physical manifestation of the absolute best that humans have to offer.
What's the thing you'll miss the most of space when you're back on Earth?
Friends and family are definitely up there. I had a friend that who said, you know, if her husband could visit up here, that she would never leave. I would love to be able to bring my friends and family up here. I think that's what I miss the most. And what I found after my last flight was I found myself appreciating those moments with those people even more so, because I certainly didn't take them for granted. Right up there is also chips and queso. We don't have any chips. They're too crumbly, and a warm queso would just really make my day.
Yeah. What is your favorite space food?
You know, our food here is actually pretty good. One of the ways that we keep our bodies healthy is by feeding it, right? And so we have a great array of food. We either fly it freeze-dried or in kind of small packets. We have hot water and warm water. We can have hot, cold food and cold food. We can chill it. So some of my favorites, there's a really good barbecue brisket. I enjoy breakfast burritos, so if you can get a little bit creative and you're careful not to let your food float away too far and hit the walls, you can make some pretty good breakfast burritos. And I've seen some pretty good pizzas made up here.
Anne, is there anything else you want to share with us or show us before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. You guys that take the time to tell our story is what enables us to do our jobs. So thank you so much for bringing the space station to the people of Seattle today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining me from space.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.